sim races from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed ground. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now.
It's a step into the unknown once more. The Lionheart Retro Series gears up to roll out for 2023 with its traditional season opener in the Sunshine State. It's a race that frays the nerves with relentless side-by-side fighting, and a race that no driver has been able to reach HyperX victory lane more than once. It's the perfect start to a rough and tumble championship run. Welcome to Homestead and welcome to the HyperX Miami 200 presented by Gomez Sim Industries. Hello everyone and welcome along back to RaceSpotTV for coverage of the 2023 Lionheart Retro Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined alongside in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth for yet another fantastic season in these Lotus 79s by DJ Clark. Don't forget you can follow along with live timing on scoring by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing. Let's not dilly-dally any longer. Let's head straight into our butt kicker pre-race show and say hello to you all watching on RaceSpot TV and Arena, because DJ, what a fantastic season we had last year, and only one repeat championship winner. There's a big target on the back of the man that comes in with the crown on his head. My word, I'm struggling with words here today.
It's all good, Arjuna. It happens to the best of us. But as we get ready for this season, I understand why you're struggling with words a little bit. There is so much excitement, so much adrenaline here. We have seen time after time that Homestead produces some really fantastic racing. And, well, I may be a little bit biased, but some fun and unexpected podium results every once in a while.
Yeah, you took advantage of plenty of chaos. And I think that's something to remember, because even 12 months ago when we were working, almost 3 wide with 3 or 4 laps left to run, we saw Madworks Motorsports, who are looking very, very strong, suddenly on the back foot. Things can change so quickly in the blink of an eye. Graphics LC ended up sweeping the podium 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, they certainly did, and that's just the kind of quick ebb and flow that we can expect here from Homestead Miami. Now, I've had a chance to be able to go out on track and drive this car a little bit, and thanks to the AI improvements on iRacing, I've been able to do it in traffic too, which has been absolutely fantastic. But I can tell you that the setup here is going to be a little bit tighter than last year. You're going to have to breathe the throttle a little bit more, so I don't think it's going to be quite as crazy 3-wide action as we've seen, but we're certainly going to see plenty of 2-wide, and this is going to be a race that requires a little bit more precision than I think it did last year.
I think with the race being held in the day as well, under the sunlight, it always makes a bit of a difference. Let's talk a bit about the schedule, though, and run you down through what is an expanded 22-race schedule. Here's a look at it, presented by Next Level Racing, and it'll be a week off before you return and head to Watkins Glen. But after that, things start to get relentless, because 22 races, you've got to fit them in some way, DJ.
Yeah, you really and truly do, is you've got to be able to work your way around here at this point and try to see what you are able to do. But Watkins Glen, New Hampshire, Pocono, some old standards that we are used to going into there. You also see the new Indy Road going to Fuji, the traditional return to Iowa and Phoenix there. Most Sport, always a good one. I like the fact that we're going to Barber again. That's going to be a fun one. And Phillip Island of these cars, always fantastic.
I think the one thing as well that we've got to remember is with 22 races, there's still only 3 Triple Crowns, and so Pocono, Indianapolis, and then of course the final round in January of next year, Auto Club will take on increased significance when it comes to the Triple Crown Championship as well. Here's a look at our series details presented by Gomez Sim Industry as we enter Season 7 of this Lionheart Retro Series. It's the 10th year of the Lionheart Racing Series. Again, we race with this Lotus 79 that was designed to go and race around Grand Prix tracks around the world, but it turns out it's pretty good around the ovals in America as well. A custom fixed setup built by Major's Garage, and everyone's fighting for their share of cash and prizes, totaling up to just over $3,500. They're all trying to unseat Mike Razmas, and the reality is here, DJ, we were talking about it just before we went live. We've got a rookie class that is maybe not so rookie.
No, there's a lot of experience here in this rookie class, looking particularly at the names like Sean Campbell that are going to be one to try to move their way up through the order there, as things have switched around here a little bit in the Lionheart Racing Series as a whole, and that means that Campbell has come on back over here into the Retro Series, obviously made a couple of starts last year and made a big impression, was able to join with just enough races remaining that he is still going to have those rookie stripes on, and I think he is going to be the preemptive favorite going into this series.
Let's take a look at some of the cars rolling out for practice, because I think this is going to be an interesting consideration. We, of course, head to a fantastic racing facility that maybe no longer plays host to American open wheel machines, but it still puts on a fantastic show when the stock cars come here. DJ, you, like you said, have been the victim, the favor of some of the victims getting your podium here 2 years ago now. Talk us through some of the dangers that some of these drivers are going to be facing.
Well, one of the things they're going to have to watch out for is going down on the super low line. It takes a little bit of time here for that low line to get truly rubbered in to be able to run that effectively. The best way to get around here in the middle and the beginning of the race is going to be running that mid-line, and then near the end of the race, you've got to be careful, because if you try to go 3 wide and up high, you will find yourself running into a little bit of marbles up on that high line. So it's going to be a little bit of being able to read the track. Driving Homestead well, it's almost a little bit like dirt track racing. You've got to be able to read the track and read where that grip is.
And in terms of tires, what are we feeling heading into 2023? Because that's always been something that seems to change. Of course, bias ply tires, what these cars were designed with, they were designed to go full race Grand Prix distances, but when you put load on them like we do on the ovals, it's always hard to know how it's going to change, especially with iRacing continuing to improve their tire model.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I'm not entirely sure what the tire strategy is going to be here today. That's a little bit of the unknown, because, as you said, iRacing continuing to update the model specifically for oval racing in these Lotus 79s. Now, I can tell you that the fuel stint is going to be between about 39 and 40 laps, so that's what it's going to take to be able to get around here on fuel. Obviously, that'll extend a little bit if you've got a few cautions that get thrown, but watch for 40 laps to be about the maximum that anybody's going to be able to make it around here on a tank of fuel.
Playing the start of this season carefully, I think, is going to be so important. Unlike when we saw Sage Karam blow the field away in 2021, winning, what was it, 6 of the opening 8 races or something like that. Given that we've got Campbell and Kraus in the fields, for the likes of Taylor, Razmas, and so many more that have been consistent staples here, DJ, I feel like they will want to just settle into a rhythm early and get to grips with how the setups are going to feel and how the fellow competitors are going to race.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think there's going to be a level of not wanting to... It's not necessarily showing your hand too early, but just coming to grips with the changes. And as you said, a pretty healthy rookie class here, so there's a lot of drivers that you may not have a read on how they're going to drive, specifically on ovals. So there's going to be a learning curve here. I think in about the first half of this race that we really see drivers just holding back a little bit, waiting for everything to come to them, and then we'll see how it plays out from there.
I wonder as well for the likes of Kraus how he's going to fare coming on over. The one thing that he's got in benefit is he's bringing some new faces over in the form of team talent. We've got Andrew Wood and Dan Zegers joining the fun, and we've also got a Junkos Hollinger's esport car. We've got some fun teams to talk about as always, but the veterans will come in with plenty to prove. Going into some of those newer tracks, DJ, how do you think the experienced drivers will try and leverage their experience with the car into some more speed come race day?
Well, I think they're basically going to have just more of a notebook to be able to fall back on, both when it comes to tire life and how the car is going to perform over losing fuel. Because the other thing we have to remember about this car is really, as opposed to a lot of other cars on this iRacing service, is this thing loses fuel as it gets lighter and lighter, it gets twitchier, it gets faster, and it's really one of the most significant cars to do that on the iRacing service. And figuring out what that feels like, it really just comes with a lot of practice. So I think on some of the newer circuits in particular, like Fuji and places like that, we're going to see the veterans really come alive when this car gets light.
I always get curious on the road courses how you even get passes done, because that's something that's been a major talking point in recent memories, and sometimes we get these draft locks, and so we're hoping that, I guess, today that's not going to be the case. Practice is just winding down, so let's quickly talk about our arena event details heading into our traditional season opener. There has never been a two-time winner in HyperX Victory Lane, but twice drivers have been able to come from outside the top 20 by staying out of trouble and playing the strategy right. Fewest cautions for does tend to mean, DJ, that with the side-by-side action that we know we should expect, drivers also need to make sure they stay out of the danger zones.
Yeah, they certainly do. You don't want to get caught out by a yellow flag around here. You could certainly go a lap down, and you're going to have to be very, very careful when it comes to that strategy. Having another team member on the box for you to be able to call that out is going to be absolutely crucial. The one good news here is that we have had a couple of times where we've had only 4 cautions around this circuit, and hopefully we can keep that trend going here and have a lot of good green flag racing.
I'm trying to remember if there's ever been a rookie winner discounting Season 1, because technically, of course, everyone is a rookie in the first season of every competition. Speaking of first, if you've been missing out on the great coverage that we've been enjoying of the Lionheart Sports Car Series, that's Monday nights here on RaceSpotTV, and so you can join us for the first ever multi-class Lionheart action, DJ. That's plenty of fun.
Yeah, it certainly is. I love seeing that series come alive here. It's great to see Lionheart really expanding their portfolio of racing. But now it is time to let these Lotus 79s loose as they head around the circuit for qualifying.
And in qualifying, DJ, what do you need to do to go fast? Because there's plenty of techniques that drivers will figure out. 2 laps to get it done. Not always the fastest to get it done on the first lap, though.
No, the biggest trick around here is that you really want to save everything up for your money lap, for that final lap around this circuit. Watch for a lot of drivers to be running the high lane or the medium lane going on the first 2 laps to try to carry as much speed as possible, not hugging the line necessarily as much as you would think. As you watch Mike Rasmus here, kind of drifting off the corner a little bit, letting it run the way he wants to. And that was his second lap there that he was able to put down, I believe, and now he's going to back it off just a little bit, trying to go through the corners. But look at this. Matt Taylor going to be the one up at the top of the charts, hugging that low line. And now it's, to the surprise of nobody, Sean Campbell.
Yeah, one by one they'll start trickling on in. Interesting to note, Christopher on a return to the series is up into the top 5 provisionally, but we've only got 20 cars qualified. Dan Ziegers now jumping up into the top 3. Half of the qualifying session gone, and plenty of drivers waiting potentially for the track to maybe get a cloud coming over it to try and set their times. It's all a bit of a gamble when it comes to calls like that, though.
Yeah, there certainly is, and so we'll have to see if that call is going to play out here as we watch the number 4 working their way around right now. This is Philip Kraus doing exactly what I talked about, running the high lane, keeping that momentum up around the circuit as they run, and then really diving down low after you've maximized the speed coming across the start-finish line.
Yes, but I'm very disappointed in Phil Kraus because he usually races with bright pink colors. That's a very boring car in comparison.
It is, but, you know, I'm also one of those old-school kind of retro-looking guys, so I like the retro colors.
Yeah, I was going to say it does fit in with the retro vibe that we've got going on. We've got 32 times on the board right now, and Kraus is very much setting himself up to go. George Anzaldo, series organizer, up into the top 11 in the number 6 Synergy Motorsports machine, but now this is where Kraus is just going to be holding on for dear life. It's a very different experience to the Dallara IR18 that Phil Kraus saw so much success in the Lionheart Open Wheel Series. Let's see how he'll get on in his very first crack at qualifying. Chris Fowler now jumps up to 5th. If you're curious how slow Kraus was, he was the slowest of them all on lap number 1, and he had to get out of the throttle coming out of turn number 4, and as he runs his way to the line, it's not going to be good enough for pole. It is good enough, though, for 3rd position.
That's a good run there for Kraus. That is going to be up out of that danger zone of the mid-pack where you can really start to see some incidents start to develop. And I like some of the heads up that we're seeing from a few drivers, waiting a little bit into the session to see if the track temperatures were going to cool down a little bit. It's 109 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now. That certainly is very, very toasty. And I think for drivers like Mark Cohn, they were hoping to see that tick down by a degree or two, but we'll have to see what the Watchman is able to do now.
Oh, he's someone that we've seen success from in our Triple Crown events, but Mark Cohn only going to be 15th for him. I think we'll get times from Jim Herrick and Craig Forsyth, both in the 4D Simware cars. Sam Ryman, I think, bailed on an attempt. Not sure if he's elected to hand back. Forsyth's up to 21st. Herrick to the line, but only 33rd for him.
Only 33rd, and yes, it's an oval, Arjuna, but the entire field here only separated by 23 hundredths of a second. I mean, we are talking about some very infinitesimal margins around here. This is going to be a fun race.
This is a race that, again, has never been won by the same driver on multiple occasions at the same time. It's a race that, in the last 6 seasons, has been won by hundredths of a second more often than not. Sean Campbell has a rookie next to his name, but we've seen him before in the series for 6 races. It is only his second pole. He's looking to add to 4 victories gained in the course of 2022, but the challenge that stands in front of him is stiff. We're ready to go for the HyperX Miami 200. Let's run you down through the starting grid for the first time this season. So in the WMP Racing number 26, Sean Campbell will lead us to the green, but Matt Taylor, who's been involved in the championship fight for multiple years, will look to get his season off with a bang on the outside of the front row. Phil Kraus apparently has the wrong colors on his car, but that's not my fault, that's his fault. Dan Zegers, his teammate alongside, will roll on row number 2. It's Drew White and Chris Fowler in the Graphics LC entries, the 15 and the number 20, while starting behind them in 7th spot, it's David Silroy in that Raven Lavoie Motorsports car, coming off second in the championship in 2022. Matt Wagner will be alongside him on row 4, while Tyler Graf and David Rodriguez, the Nezumi Graphics LC teammates, complete the top 10. Unacceptable Racing's Christopher Hill shares row 6 with Chris Lanini, while Christopher and Michael O'Brien 13th and 14th position. Half a tenth of a second splits the top 14, and Mark Cohn and George Anzaldo start alongside each other 15th and 16th. Guyon rolls 17th with Kite Bombers back in the Tiger Hawk Simpsport number 37 alongside him. On the outside of row number 9 is Marius Valiokis, teammate to Sean Campbell and someone that came oh so close to victory in 2022 back in 19th. Sam Fontaine alongside to complete your top 20. Forsyth, Nunez 21st and 22nd, with Gallus and Johnson 23rd and 24th. Starting in 25th, it's going to be Luke Daniels. He's got the Canyon Dustin Wardlow for company on row 13. It's Munoz Rasmus and then Rickney and Wood through your top 30. And again, still just 900 splitting the field. It's a big field, so Richie Hearn, Ricky Harding, Jim Herrick, Joe Hassert, Cristobal Valenzuela, and Bruno Miranda make up the rest of the top 36, with Chris Reagan, Gabe Wood, Jeff Hysong, and then Sam Ryman completing the 40 machines that get ready to roll here in the Sunshine State. As always, we've got featured onboard cameras to run you down through, and so let's not dilly-dally about with that. Let's jump on board first with George Anzaldo, who rides on board with Arena. A new streaming experience for esports is coming. Get involved and make a difference on arena.tv.
On the number 68 machine, we have the Butt Kicker on board with Mike Rasmus. Sim racing is better with Butt Kicker. Visit thebuttkicker.com.
Guyon rides with Next Level Racing. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com.
Matt Taylor has the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Short time here, DJ, before we get racing. Quick prediction, who comes out on top?
I'm going to put some money here on Sean Campbell. I think it's going to be hard to beat him off of pole position, Arjuna.
Throw 133 laps onto the board and leave the field in control of Sean Campbell. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and it's the start of the 2023 Lionheart Retro Series. We're racing in Miami for the HyperX Miami 200. That's a great jump from Sean Campbell. Phil Kraus able to pass Matt Taylor and leap up into second spot. But the inevitable back and forth that we'll see at the start of this race will start to take place, and from there we'll settle into a rhythm, hopefully, and see how crazy they want to be.
Well, it looks like they're starting to get a little bit crazy here for third and fourth position. I'm seeing Zegers and Fowler's going side by side along with Sirwa and White there behind. Campbell got a good jump on the rest of the field, but he's starting to lose that gap as the draft comes into play.
We're not going to be too worried about passes for the race lead until we get into the final probably 30 laps or so. At the start, it's all about fuel mileage, and it's all about swapping back and forth potentially. Remember, fuel windows here, about 40 laps, although the draft can add 2 or 3 to that depending on how light you are with your right foot. Inside of the top 10, not really any movers and shakers. It's really just been about drivers trying to make sure they stay out of trouble. Someone that decided they wanted no part of the drama, though, Ricky Harding drops back all the way to 39th spot.
Yeah, he's going to drop all the way back down through the order there. Probably not far, probably too far from what he wanted to drop down to, but I think a lot of drivers here may be finding themselves seeing this too wide up at the front of the field, opting to back out of it a little bit, saying, you know what, I don't really want any part of that.
Great look from up above, and you can just see how relatively calm it's all being right now. Michael O'Brien's going to look down low and see Chris Hill sliding on through, and then Chris Stouffer slides his way on that high line, half a lane down initially before deciding not to go for it. Side by side, pretty common at the back of the pack, and no one's really too worried. And I think your point about maybe not seeing too much 3-wide, DJ, is starting to be proven.
Yeah, you're seeing drivers here having a little bit of a hard time trying to keep that 3-wide up here, although we've got a little bit of that action a little farther back down in the field there, as that is the number 2 machine trying to be able to work their way around. That's Matt Wagner up on the high side. Drivers picking their lines here relatively early on and committing to them relatively well. Driving standards being upheld here really all the way up and down through the field.
Riding over the shoulder of George and Zaldo. This is one of the benefits that we have in sim racing. A, we can put these Lotus 79s around an oval, but B, we can throw onboard cameras onto every single one of them and have some fun and play around with angles maybe not that realistic. I always like this one because it shows how little you're steering relative to the speed that we're going, DJ, especially knowing how twitchy these cars can be.
Yeah, you really don't want to put a whole lot into here. I once had somebody tell me if you see those rivets up on the top of the car there, you never want the knuckles to go over about past the first rivet, and that's going to be too much steering input that you put on the car. It's all about micro inputs in these cars to really make sure you get it right.
So still Campbell leads from Kraus, Taylor, and Fowler at the front. Drew White runs in 5th with Zegers, Graf, Sirwa, and Rodriguez. The rest of the top 10. Lanini in the mix as well. And Lanini, our defending race winner, one of a couple of drivers looking to make history. We've got, again, no repeat winners in the field, and I think it's just Chris Lanini in the 40-car roster today that has a chance of being able to break a bit of history.
Yeah, I think it's him as well, as he's the only one that's really been able to do it. Good discretion here, though, being shown out of about the first 5 or so drivers, as they're really starting to separate themselves out a little bit. We're not seeing that close of running in between them. And the crucial thing here that they're going to be able to do, Arjuna, is a little bit of fuel saving. When you're on a super speedway like this, you're going to want to back off that throttle a little bit, give it some breath, save a little bit of fuel, and try to maybe make that 40-lap distance a little bit longer.
I'm going to say something controversial. If you are Sean Campbell and Phil Kraus, do you really need to be running at the front right now? Working from the back of the field will give you plenty of an opportunity to understand where everyone else is in terms of traffic and how you're going to approach them for the rest of the season. Running at the front doesn't really let you learn very much, let's be honest.
No, it really doesn't. You're going to learn way more by running at about 5th or 6th place than you are by running in any other position, because the biggest thing is you want to learn how the rest of the drivers are going to be doing around you, what they're going to be doing, what their characteristics are. Maybe you're going to have a driver that likes to dive into the corners a little bit more aggressively, or maybe one that's going to try to start out a little bit later. Look at this gaggle in the mid-pack.
I mean, where do you even want to be? I tell you, I don't want to be at the hot seat. Craig Forsyth rides as our camera car right now, and there is indeed 3 and almost 4 abreast. We're only 11 laps into this, don't forget.
That's a little bit too aggressive for me here this early. I think you want to back it off a little bit, and I don't like where Forsyth is. If you're going to be running 3 or 4 wide, you want to be down on the inside, because that is the place that is statistically least likely that you are going to pick up an incident, that you are going to be able to be caught if there is an incident that takes place in front of you, because the force is going to carry these cars up the track. So look for drivers who are trying to be a little bit safer to be down on that inside.
I must say, new season means new paint schemes. I do like what Craig Forsyth has done to just add a little bit more color to his 4D sim racing car. And just look how he slides up the track and clears himself of Matt Wagner there. Sometimes you've got to throw moves like that, especially when the field isn't being split up by much. Front still sees Campbell and Kraus running 1 and 2. But we are starting to see a bit more side-by-side behind Fowler. White and Zegers, the rookies, trying to work their way forward.
Yeah, they're trying to fight their way forward, and this is to be a little bit expected here. We're getting about a third of the way through the fuel stint, and as I said, these cars are going to get lighter, they're going to get twitchier, they're going to get looser as that fuel burns away. So the longer we go into a fuel stint, look for drivers to get more and more aggressive, and we'll see a little bit more of this 2-wide action.
I really enjoy being able to just jump on board with a variety of these drivers. We're now riding with David Sirot in the 99, and he's pinched down low, and 2 hands, 2 feet, that's all you've got in this car. You don't get the benefit of the in-car adjustments that the likes of Kraus will have become adjusted to in the Lionheart Open Wheel Series, DJ. How much of that of a transition is that, in your opinion, coming over to this car?
It's something you've really, really got to get used to, especially if you are used to that open wheel series. You've got a bunch of tools to really help you in lap traffic, and 9 times out of 10, if you're driving in lap traffic with those tools, you're able to keep your foot relatively planted to the floor. However, when you're driving in one of these cars, you don't have those tools. You don't have roll bar adjustments. You don't have a weight jacker. The only way you are going to be able to counter dirty air is by lifting that right foot a little bit, feathering the throttle, and adjusting your steering inputs. It's a very tricky thing to get used to, but when you get it right, Arjuna, oh, it's a great feeling.
Okay, you know what I said about that thing about Campbell and Kraus maybe wanting to come at the back, but I said that partially because we know that the way these races play out, fuel games tend to be important, and you're going to be shuffled back to the back eventually as Forsyth tries to slide up once again. This time not going to be allowed. I want no part of any of this anywhere at all.
No, neither do I. This looks like an opening lap here, the way they are running. I think for Kraus and for Campbell, any thought of fuel conservation they had is gone out the window here, because they just want to stay clear of all of this insanity that's going on behind them.
Yeah, they're doing a great job of keeping it clean as I knock on my RaceSpot issued block of wood, but heart rates are up, I'm sure, for the drivers, but I'm pretty sure for us in the commentary booth as well.
Yeah, most certainly. I'm just kind of holding on here. I'm holding on to my push-to-talk button probably a little bit firmer than I should, just because there are nerves here. I have been in this position where you're running 2-3 wide, and it is just absolutely white-knuckle nerve-wracking.
Well, coming to the end of lap 18, it's 133 laps this race, but they're starting to get more feisty at the front as Taylor starts to see in the rearview mirrors the likes of Zegers and company fighting side by side. It's starting to stack up about 2 wide through the entirety of the field.
Yeah, it certainly is here at this point. We're seeing some of that 3 wide start to die off, but consistent 2 wide running here, as there we see, again, diving down into the corner. We got a couple of cars trying to make it a little bit 3 wide, trying to work that high lane. And what I said about that low lane, certainly not coming to play. I thought that low line was going to be a lot harder to run early on, but drivers are making it work on a later apex. The question's going to be is if they're going to be able to hold down on a low line all the way through if they get pinched when drivers get a little bit more aggressive up on that high side.
Interestingly, Sean Campbell, who still leads at the front, has only lost about 8 hundredths of a second to his fastest lap, but he's got a challenge to the inside for the very first time, and after leading 19 laps, it will be Phil Kraus, I think, that leads at the end of lap number 19, and now it is stacked up Noah's Ark with almost 20 rows of 2 Lotus 79s.
Oh my goodness, 2 by 2 by 2. They just continue to come along here, and now we're seeing a little bit of this back and forth play that I think is going to be really crucial when we think about race end. These drivers are going to be calculating here who's got more speed running on the high lane or the low lane coming out of 4, and they're going to be putting that in the back of their mind if they're trying to make a run to the checkered flag.
Great look on board from the nose of Tyler Graf as the cars potentially dropping backwards in the field, albeit momentarily. You've got to be, as the yellow flag flies for the first time today, not exactly sure why, but it's Richie Hearn. Whoa, that, I tell you what, has completely destroyed that Lotus 79.
That looks like a land speed car rather than an open wheel racing car at that point. That car is absolutely toast. Arjuna, we're going to have to pull up a replay and find out what happened to Richie there because I didn't see that live.
Well, poor Richie. I hope he's got his internet woes somewhat sorted for this season because if we know anyone that has a chance of fighting tooth and nail, Richie Hearn is definitely one of them. He's drifting up into the path of the Candyman and he ping-pongs his way back and forth, and I tell you what, I'm surprised the physics didn't make that even worse.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well, but I'll tell you, that was just a nasty lick right head on into the barriers. But Arjuna, I'll tell you what this has done for the front of the field here, everybody coming down into pit lane as we take one more look at this just absolutely devilish lick for Richie Hearn.
Yeah, and I think on board with Dustin Wardlow gives us a pretty good indication of what happens there. However, an interesting call by Chris Lanini to try and cycle out and maybe get a point for a lead lap. But like you say, the entirety of the rest of the field down onto pit lane, and for the very first time we're about to see how well they're going to execute on pit road.
Yeah, the biggest thing here is you've got to make sure to hit your marks, and the other big thing to keep in mind here is there is no pit lane speed limiter in these Lotus 79, so you are controlling your own speed by your right foot. I can tell you, I've picked up a speeding penalty. It's very, very easy to do, but it looks like Philip Kraus is going to be out in first, then Campbell, then Seegers, Taylor, Fowler, Sirwa, pretty much the order they came in.
No major dramas for the field, cycling off of the lane. And I know pit limiter is definitely something to think about, especially with green flag pit stops. One thing that we did see in set, because we were watching the replay, so we saw it in the small box, was the fact that you use the access road in through turn 3 to come down to pit lane, which does slightly help you out, DJ, but by no means is it a difficult one. Now, again, remember, this is a race that the fewest number of cautions that it's seen is 4, the maximum that it's seen is 6, and so one caution in about 20 laps through. I guess we're on track for about 4 or 5.
I think that would probably be about right, although normally I will say when we see those fewer caution numbers, it tends to be when we've got a big one that takes out a large chunk of the field, as it does look like Chris Lanini is actually going to come down into pit lane, so I think your assessment there, Arjuna, was completely right. He wanted to come down in, he wanted to stay out there, pick up that point for leading a lap. Luke Daniels, however, is going to stay out here, and that's going to be an interesting call there from the 28.
Especially given that we're already, more than halfway through a fuel window of about 40 laps, and so we're going to expect him down to pit lane in probably 17 laps or so once we get the green flag back out in the air. I don't think we saw anyone go up on the jack, so I don't think tires are necessarily a consideration, but an interesting call from that 28 machine, who did show a decent amount of form coming to the end of last year.
Yeah, he certainly did, and he's going to have the advantage here. That car is going to be lighter, it's going to be faster, so he may be able to pull away here a little bit and just kind of hope for another yellow flag to come out at the end of this pit stop cycle. Otherwise, Daniel's going to find himself out of position and maybe a lap down. Oh,
I'm so glad to see single file restarts after a night of commentating on NASCAR with terrible double file starts. Does mean that checkups can be very, very treacherous, and you've got to make sure that you're not being too dangerous. Matt Taylor, interestingly, is going to try and coordinate, I think, with his MadWorks Graphics teammate in Chris Fowler, but the green flag drops once again. It's Luke Daniels from Kraus, Campbell, Zegers, and Taylor at the front. We're going to build up that kinetic energy once again, and I'm sure in 10-15 laps time, if we get there, we'll be 2 by 2 through the entirety of the field again.
I'm sure we will as well, but just as promised there, Luke Daniels is going to be able to hold on to the lead of the race. Kraus going to be trying to close in behind there, but I think the lightness of that number 28 is going to prove his advantage here for the moment. Biggest gap I can see in the field here in the first couple of drivers, that's going to be between Valiokas and Ruff. That's about a 0.5 of a second gap.
See how quickly it does check back up. I do think we had a couple of drivers caught napping on the restart, and so you've got the likes of Hill and Gonzalez Nunez duking it out side by side. This as well for 20th position. It's going to take some time for them to all stack up, and I wonder if Jim Herrick got a penalty due to all of the chaos in the restart because he just come down to pit lane.
He very well may have, and that may be the penalty that sent him back around, but we'll have to see what exactly it happens here for him. Yeah, he is going to be in pit lane here, and we'll keep you updated on that. A little bit of action here farther back in the field. I think that's Wardlow right in the middle of it.
New fastest lap, but I'm very curious how that's going to stack up by the time we get to the end of this race. Still waiting for the field to really be grouped up once again, and the more fighting they do further back, the better it is for those at the very front of the field. And you can see that Daniels, well, lighter car, like you say, proving to be a rocket ship, and we're heading into a new season. It doesn't mean that commentators aren't going to forget the things that we knew, and that's something that we forgot, DJ, apparently to mention earlier, is the fact that this car benefits so much from being lighter on the fuel load.
Yeah, it really does. Ooh, I think Philip Kraus may have just made a little bit of contact there with the outside wall coming down into 3. It was the lightest of brushes if he did, but there may have been contact. There was definitely a little bit of a squiggle there from him nonetheless. But yeah, as this car gets lighter, it will get faster, and so I think that's going to be a strategy here that gets played out over the course of this race. But look at this, lap times just continuing to fall by the wayside.
I do wonder as well if it is going to be a case of we'll see the fastest laps at the very end, but that might not be the case when we start juking it out 2 and 3 wide. Kraus shapes up to the wall quite aggressively, but I don't necessarily think there was any damage there because he's already closing back up to the race leader. It does go to show just how close to the wall these guys are running, how pixel perfect you've got to be.
Yeah, they have got to be absolutely on it as we focus a little bit farther back in the field here. This is going to be a battle. Ooh, it's getting a little bit sketchy there, it's got to be said. This is Valiokas, Siroc, Graf, Rodriguez, Cone, all of them duking it out here for 9th place.
Valiokas won that again, unlucky on some of the road courses. Someone that got some speeding penalties, getting caught out by the lack of the pit lane limiter. And he's teamed up with Sean Campbell. Now that's an interesting team combo right there, but that's a 2-man outfit, and I think most of the other teams 3-man outfit, so curious how they're going to stack up.
Well, I mean, if Valiokas is able to get some of the bad luck out of his way, he very well may have a good position to work his way forward, as there we see David Rodriguez working his way down to the inside of Sirois. Sirois with that new paint scheme here this year, adding some gold into the traditional red, black, and white that we were used to seeing out of that Raven LeBlanc team last year. Right on board the nose here of the 99. You can see him drifting up the track there, Arjuna. That is a result of that aero wave. That is a lack of front grip on the car, a lack of aerodynamic grip, and he's having to struggle to try to get that car to turn where he wants to.
I'm curious why there's gold on it, because that's usually something you do after winning a championship.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either.
Hopefully he'll get some more podiums this season when we can ask him, and we can see how well he holds up under interrogation. Now, David Rodriguez is still under investigation from that race back in Iowa in 2021, where he grew the magic fuel-growing tree in his fuel tank and ran his way to HyperX victory lane. However, new team now. RSR by Butt Kicker no longer. Nezumi Graphics Esports for the number 10.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to work his way on through here. Rodriguez, that fuel master like you talked about 2 years ago in Iowa. And as I've told you before, Arjuna, I was running behind him for the last stint of that race, and I have no idea how he was able to do that because he was faster than me and he had more fuel. It didn't make sense. He
was using the fuelhacks.exe.
Yep, that's what it is. That's 100% what it is.
We're not allowed to make jokes like that in today's esports climate, though.
No, we're really not.
No, we're really not. Big Joe Hassert, Scotty Johnson, Sam Fontaine, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Behind them, they've got Andrew Wood, who did win a couple of Speedway Series races back in 2022. Lotus 79 is a very different thing. Already a handful of drivers making their intentions known, though, to work their way forward through the field. Valiokas plus 10 into the top 10 as he makes that 11. Mike Razmas is plus 15, but the biggest mover of them all is Gabe Wood in that 04 machine, the Team Sim Race 24/7 car, and he's trying to make it 21 down the inside of Craig Forsyth.
Yeah, and this is the part of the race where you do want to start to, as you said, Arjuna, let your intentions be known. Start to work your way through the field. This is where the car and you are going to be in perfect sync with one another. You've been running out here long enough. You know how the car is going to perform. You know what it's going to be doing, and so you're able to make the moves where you want to. And the other thing you've got to do is if you are a competitor that sees another driver coming up alongside you, you need to try to figure out where their preferred line is. Are they liking to take the car low, or are they liking to take the car high? And your job as a competitor is to stop them from taking that preferred line.
And that is something Scott McLaughlin had to learn the hard way at Texas last year. That did hurt me internally as a Scotty Mac fan. But Joseph Newgarden around the outside made it look so easy. So, yes, that is a skill that you also have to master. Breaking away at the front, by the way, Phil Krause is setting himself up to potentially have as dominant a year he had last season in the Lionheart Open Wheel Series in 2023 in this Retro Series, because Luke Daniels, of course, is off cycle with the strategy. The rest of the field now 1.5 odd seconds behind. Krause able to use that toe to break away with the lighter car.
Yeah, he's doing a great job here, and the crucial thing is we just ticked over onto lap 40, and remember I said that we were going to be looking at about a 39 to 40 lap pit stop cycle when you were running clean and green. Now I expect that to extend probably 2 to 3 laps under caution conditions that we saw there, so Daniels has got to be hoping for a yellow here on the next couple of laps, otherwise he's going to find himself in real trouble.
They're also starting to go 2 by 2 behind. Even better news if you're in Phil Krause's position. I think we could see Luke Daniels get as far as maybe lap 45 or so. Anything further than that is probably pushing it. Here's some side-by-side, though. Our pole position winner, Sean Campbell, trying to fend off the advances of Matt Taylor. They've got Chris Fowler behind them. Let's not forget, this is a race that pole position has also never been able to enter HyperX victory lane in.
Yeah, it's certainly not, as that was almost a dip down there for Taylor under the apron. You got to be careful about that. Yes, he flattens out on the straightaways here, but it's certainly not an easy way to be able to get your way around as we watch them work their way through. And part of the reason why you normally don't see pole position win here from Homestead is because some of those strategy calls come back to bite you, and that's going to shuffle the field around here. As we've seen everything right now, it looks like it's in good position to keep on going as it is.
We're about to go 3 wide here, aren't we?
Yep.
You get that sense. Yep, Chris. Oh, thank you, Chris Fowler, for deciding not to shock the world and prove the commentators right for once. There's almost 3 wide behind them, to be fair, so I'm not sure how much credit we can give them all. Phil Krause is now 2 seconds clear of these cars behind. As soon as Daniels comes down pit lane, I think it's irrelevant. Krause is going to be sailing clear.
Yeah, he's going to be sailing clear, and with that gap of 2.2 seconds, he is going to be... Whoa! That was a scary moment for Matt Taylor.
And that's a driver that's been involved in the championship fight for going on 3 years. If he can make a slight slip up like that, what does that mean for the rest of the drivers?
I think they're going to smell some blood in the water, and they are going to be absolutely pushing hammer and tongs to try to get their way by Matt Taylor. And the first one on that list is going to be Sean Campbell here as they try to go. Chris Fowler, another one that is going to be trying to work to do it.
Let's ride on board with Taylor as he works through the corner. Did the rear end step around on him, or it did look as though that was the case?
I think it may have, although that's a little bit of a strange place to have the rear end step out. It looked like there he was going for a little bit of a crossover, and I think he may have bottomed out on the circuit. That may have been what happened. He just kind of jinked the car a little bit too hard to the right, and that's what brought him down touching the apron as Daniels is down into pit lane.
And a big lockup, and again, remember, he's not coming in with any sort of pit lane limiter to help him out here. And he's also got the pressure of now having to maintain the pit limit down the entirety of the lane to minimize the time that he bleeds. At the front, though, Phil Krause on debut in the Lionheart Retro Series is 2.5 seconds clear of the field behind.
Yeah, he is just going to be cruising at this point. He's not going to be able to do any fuel saving, but that's not going to dissuade him whatsoever. Wow, I love that camera shot looking at Kraus. You could just see the field fanning out behind him as they battle for position.
Let's just track what Kraus is doing, not just in terms of gap to those behind, but lines now as well, because he's not getting any draft, and so he's basically dictating the speed that he runs. Dan Ziegers, his team talent teammate, is the one that sits in second. But how much benefit is that going to be? Because if Ziegers and company get into that draft, there's not much Phil Kraus is going to be able to do to try and latch up with Ziegers, because the cars behind will just come with such a head of momentum thanks to the hole that Kraus is punching in the air.
Yeah, very much so, and I like what Kraus is doing here. He's taking late apexes into the corner and then hugging it all the way around. That's keeping his maximum speed up. Now, the thing that I wonder here out of these drivers is the sort of standard leapfrog game that we get to see played every once in a while may have a little bit of to do here for them. It may help them, but oftentimes Arjunas, especially on speedways that are relatively flat out, the side draft is surprisingly effective in these Lotus 79s, and I wonder if we continue to go into this green flag stint, if we're going to see a few drivers maybe try to use that to their advantage.
What do you think WMP Racing stands for, by the way?
That was a big moment there in front, saving me from the bell. I have no idea. Working Motorsports something?
These are not bad guesses. It was another WMP Racing machine that had the big oopsie. It was Valiocus. It stands for Where's My Pipes? Because Marius and Sean, as well as Oscar, who I guess is Oscar Coper, all play Factorio a lot. So there you go. A little bit of a story behind the team name for 2023. And I just remembered that Adam Blocker finished inside of the top 10 in 2021 in the Lionheart Open Wheel Series of the team championship by himself. If you've got Campbell and Valiocus able to consistently run at the front, I mean, don't discount them from being up at the charge and maybe being in the fight for the HyperX Team Championship.
They very well could be. I mean, this is a new season, Arjuna. Absolutely anything is possible here from any of these drivers. It is a wide open book, and I think you've got a lot of talent here spread out over a bunch of good teams. We're going to have to see how they fan themselves out here as this season goes along.
A couple of different battle packs starting to be built up here. Of course, you've got the one that's now behind your race leader, but you've also then now got what is effectively a train for 12th position on back, and it's getting pretty feisty up and down through the field, and even in front of the fight that we're watching. Gonzalez, Nunez, and Plenty getting very, very feisty.
Getting very feisty indeed is also that battle back for 12th. Not looking too bad either. We'll see what they are able to do here at this point. I'm loving what they do. Loving what they are fighting themselves out here. Good heads-up racing. They've been able to take about 1/10 of a second out of Philip Kraus, so not bad.
It's coming slowly. These drivers already onto lap 30 of the run, and so we expect them down to pit lane in probably 13 or 14 laps at this point.
Yeah, it's not going to be too long until they've got to come back down in. They're on lap 30 of their stint right now, and again, a little bit under yellow. And what we saw there from Luke Daniels was that he was able to make it 45 laps under yellow flag conditions. So we've got about 15 left to go here, and I think that's going to start factoring into these drivers' minds.
Let's go talk about our arena driver profile. It's another one with the gold, so maybe this is something special for Raven Lavoie Motorsports. As that was a car recovering, Joe Hassert. Alex Guyon, 36 career starts though. Half of them he's been able to crack the top 10 in what is a rambunctious series at the best of times. Of course, his first appearance 2 years ago back here at Homestead. That's not his first win, but he's a driver that we've seen being pretty consistent in the course of the championship.
Yeah, very consistent, putting in good times here. This whole Raven Lavoie team has certainly been very consistent up at the front. They have been a name here that we have come to expect to be running up in the top 10, and certainly going on one of those drivers that you're a little bit surprised to see him this far down in the order.
David Tirwa, too, who's down 13 positions. Not sure if he lost a lot of ground in the pit stop cycle, but you can just see how separated they are getting through the field. Your leader still not into lap traffic, so that is not a consideration, but the longer that we go, you've got to assume that it may play a bit of a factor. Kraus still not really losing any ground to those behind, so exactly what he wants to see. And it is going to be 3 wide, isn't it? In towards turn number 3 for a moment. Pinching down low, it's Matt Taylor, but Valiokas was going to pinch him even more if he can as they ramp to the line.
All right, that pinching is something that I was anticipating starting to have happen around here, Arjuna. Drivers are going to get more aggressive, and if you're up on that high lane, you're going to pinch that driver down, try to keep them from keeping momentum up as they let the car drift up the track a little bit. And by pinching down, you force that driver down on the inside line to lift out of the throttle and lose speed.
Michael O'Brien wants to make sure that everyone knows that he's a Kiwi, by the way. You got all 3 of those Graphics LC... Well, Nezumi Graphics LC Madworks cars. That's a mouthful of a name, so I'm just going to call it Madworks.
I think that works. I think that certainly is more than understandable, Arjuna.
You know what the worst team name of all time is? I was testing for this weekend's iRacing Road America 500. Very excited about the coverage we'll have here on RaceSpotTV. I know GSRC will have some pretty exciting coverage of that race as well on Saturday. Oh, as the yellow flag's out, so we'll get back to that one. As Scotty Johnson stricken as cars scatter to try and avoid.
And yet another seemingly solo car incident here, Arjuna. That is a real surprise to me. I would have expected a lot more of multi-car incidents here at this point in the running.
Oh, don't worry, this was a multi-car one. And it all starts in front, doesn't it? Surely there's a couple cars that have plenty of damage as a result of that one.
Yeah, they're going to be bopped around there a little bit. I think that may be the number 1. That was Rasmus, I think, that got caught by the opening of it.
I think Gabe Wood mixed up in there as well. Let's jump on board if we can with the Team Sim Race 24/7 car. Again, they're all going to scatter for pit lane in terms of those that survived. And yeah, a couple of the cars that were running very strong getting mixed up in that for sure. But meanwhile, critical time because getting to the halfway mark or so of this race, 40-lap fuel window, let's not forget. One more stop from here if we go green.
Yep, one more stop indeed, and everybody taking full advantage of it here at this point. Ooh, that was not the best run into the pits there for Matt Taylor. And yep, that's going to be interesting here. Drivers opting to take tires at about the halfway point in the race.
So it is Kraus from Zegers. Team Talent still 1-2 with Taylor, Fowler, Madworks 3-4. Valiokas, O'Brien, Graf, Rodriguez in front of Campbell and Cone, the rest of the top 10. Couple of changes that cycle threw down onto the lane.
Yeah, it certainly did, and the biggest thing I think here for this is going to be Philip Kraus no longer having that massive advantage up at the front of his field. He's going to have to fight for it here, and I think Zegers, Taylor, and Fowler, and of course Valiokas as well, they're going to be wanting to put in a little bit of a charge here and see if they can get a point for leading the race.
Looks like Sean Campbell in front of David Rodriguez momentarily, so I wonder if that was just confusion at the line about who got the position. There's no confusion about Phil Kraus leading, but he's going to be a little bit frustrated about the fact that a 2 and a bit odd second advantage has now come to an end. You can see the 28 as well as the 40. That's Luke Daniels and Jim Herrick, who stayed out trying to get a lap back, who are now just waiting to be waved around. Luke Daniels will stay on the lead lap. Jim Herrick is already 1 lap down.
Yeah, Herrick a lap down here, as is... No, Daniels was able to get that back, as you just said. Jeff Hysong's going to be hopping down into pit lane here at this point, and I also see Scotty Johnson is registered as in pit lane, although that's a lot of damage repair going on to that number 07 machine.
Done.
Yeah, he is done. He is done.
Mike Rigney had something happen to as well. Not sure what happened to him, but we do know, of course, what happened to Richie Hearn.
Yeah, exactly. Richie having that incident a little bit earlier and seeing that car going absolutely like a pinwheel earlier on in the race.
Pinwheel describes it quite well. Cycling around under caution then. Take a look at our track conditions. It's not bad, but it's also not as hot as it maybe could be in the state known as the Sunshine State.
Yeah, certainly could be a lot worse, and there to convert that over into units that I can understand. 79 degrees Fahrenheit and 101 Fahrenheit out on the track. So just a little bit outside of that Goldilocks zone in terms of tire temperature that we like to talk about, but it'll still be good running here. And I think those increased temperatures, that's why you saw some of these drivers come down in and take tires.
Halfway point of the race as well. I guess it's probably the natural time to do it. If you were going to do it. Let's go back in time as well and quickly go take a look at what happened to Joe Hassert with his little bit of a moment that he had earlier on, because we saw a puff of smoke and we weren't exactly sure what it was, but it was a big moment out of turn number 4.
It was indeed, as there you see it touching down on that apron. The apron has been the killer here today, and massive credit there to Big Joe Hassert to be able to hold onto that car and make it work.
I think he did lose track of the group in front, but at the end of the day, more important to keep the car alive.
Yeah, very much so. In order to finish the race, in order to finish first you must finish, and Hassert getting his way to finish.
Plenty of statements like that, aren't there? Okay, so this restart potentially could be the last one, given that we've only seen 2 cautions so far, and the drivers have done a decent job of filtering their way on through. It is now Phil Kraus and Dan Ziegler's Team Talent running 1 and 2, with Madworks then 3, 4, and 6 behind them. How do the teammates link together? Well, it's all now in the hands of Barney the Flagman. Phil Kraus brings us back to green in the HyperX Miami 200. A huge incident on the restart, tumbling up and over Joe Hassert into pit lane. My days, immediately the caution is back out.
And we were talking about a big one there, Arjuna. I assumed it was going to be when these drivers were up to speed, but apparently not. My goodness gracious.
Hellacious is a word that Kyle Heyer uses a lot. I think that best describes that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there on that one. That was not a easy incident to take a look at. But let's go ahead and bring this back, because we had multiple cars flipping. Got to imagine this is courtesy of a little bit of a checkup back in the field. Yep.
So Andrew Woods and then Joe Hassert with nowhere to go. Fairness to everyone, filtering left and right. It wasn't really Skittles. They got through it pretty cleanly.
Yeah, they really did. They did a good job of being able to get through it, and so I've got to give them credit there for that. But we're going to ride on board here with Joe Hassert. You see that checkup in front of him. Hassert just absolutely nowhere to go. The seas parted right in front of him, and it was a closed door.
Yeah, maybe it's better that we don't continue to ride on board with him. Cautions breed cautions, and so we knew that was a possibility, if not an inevitability, unfortunately. So now we slow it down once again, and it's our 3rd caution on the day. And so, DJ, it means now we're trending towards that point where minimum of 4, maximum of 6 in historical records.
Yep, we're hitting right on into the mean here at this point. So we'll have to see if drivers are able to contain themselves a little bit more. That was just kind of a strange incident, it has to be said, as they run. And so that means that these drivers certainly had to find a different way to get around. But we'll have to see what they do once we get restarted here again.
So remember a few of the facts. Never has there been a repeat winner here at Homestead Miami to start off the Lionheart Retro Series. There's also never been a driver that's converted pole position to the front, but right now Phil Kraus and Dan Ziegler's 1 and 2 might look to try and continue to control things. So these drivers would have pitted on lap number 61. Let's say they can do, including 2 cautions now that we've had since then, 40 plus an additional 5 or 6, 7 laps, let's say. That's probably pushing it a little bit too far. So let's say they're all pitting around lap 107. It does mean, though, that now there's a bit of a pit stop window that you can play with, because you could come in as early as lap 93 if you're crazy and don't want to run your car dry. But I guess it all depends on how the race filters out from here.
Yeah, we're going to have to see, because the biggest thing about this is, remember, you want to try to run that tank as low as possible to try to maximize the speed out of the car, Arjuna. It's not like you want to come in on every lap and fill it back up again, but I'm not sure how they're going to be able to play this.
A couple of cars coming on in. Jeff Hysong, Jim Herrick, Sam Ryman, all just getting a top off on fuel. Chris Lanini included in that bunch as well. So they're just trying to get whatever little they can to go on a bit better. I'm surprised Luke Daniels hasn't come in, to be honest, because he's now in 31st. Was, got the wave around after gambling on the first caution to not come in. But surely it would have been wise for him because he's 22 laps into his run. He just needs to put more fuel in now when we get to the next pit stop.
Yeah, he will. Some of the strategy a little bit up in the air at this point, Arjuna, but we'll see how it plays out. There's still plenty of time left to go in this race. We're only at about the halfway point here in this point, and so we will have to see what they do.
How tired will the drivers be at this point, DJ, in terms of the mental fatigue it takes and from the strain of being side by side so much?
It really takes it out of you. When you're running like Philip Kraus was up at the front of the field by yourself, it's a Sunday drive. It's leisurely, it's great, it's really, really calm and collected. When you are running side by side, you're white-knuckling it. You are very, very tense. If you're in VR, you're constantly looking to your right. If you're on triple monitors, you're constantly moving your head and not being able to focus on your own racing line exclusively. And that really, really takes it out of you. And so for a lot of these drivers, they're going to be sitting here going, oh, man, I still got half of this race left to go.
Who did you say would come out on top? He said Sean Campbell, right?
Yeah, I said Campbell.
I'll give you a chance to amend your prediction.
I'm sticking with my guns.
Yeah,
I'm sticking with my guns.
I was about to say don't bother changing your prediction because Sean Campbell's just popped into our YouTube chat to say he's not very tired, honestly.
Of course he did.
Don't text and drive, Sean. It's not legal. We'll pull your license. There is something about these drivers that can text and drive under caution because Robert Malechka has historically did it in the Lionheart Open series, a wheel series, much to the amusement of yours truly.
Yeah, very much so. Drivers are incredible feats of nature, it has to be said. But here we come to green.
Green flag back in hand for the HyperX Miami 200. And is once again Team Talent that leads us 1 and 2 at the start. There are a few puffs of smoke at the back of the field, but fortunately, safely through into turns 1 and 2, we still have 35 Lotus 79s roaring their way up to speed. And like I said on one of the previous restarts, it's all now just about that kinetic energy building up, but already the gap's starting to build. The question is, how big are those gaps as David Silra coming down to pit lane with surely a penalty for a jump start there.
Yeah, that's got to be a penalty there for Sirwan. He's going to come in, and that is going to absolutely ruin his race for sure. But as we check back in on the 88, Ziegler is able to make a move down to the inside of Philip Kraus. We've got to change for the lead.
And maybe now some back and forth swapping that we'll see from the Team Talent teammates who are already almost 1 full second clear of Matt Taylor, Chris Fowler, and Marius Valiokas behind as they build again out of turn number 4. It's Ziegler's back down low as Kraus this time at the line was a full second clear of 3rd.
Yeah, and that's going to be huge there. If they're able to build that gap up once again, that certainly means that they're going to be able to pull away here and not have to worry about anything behind. Ooh, that was car very down low. Excuse me, I think that was Sirwa coming back down out of pit lane that I saw. But if I'm sitting here and I'm Matt Taylor, I am pushing everything I've got to try to close that gap up in front.
Well, let's check in with David Sirwa. He's got Dustin Wardlow in front of him. I don't necessarily see what's wrong, but
that may have been a penalty that was served in that was accrued in pit lane, Arjuna, because if you pick up a speeding penalty, you are not able to serve it under yellow flag.
It's not an end of line, is it? So yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was an end of line, though. Am I wrong?
I don't think so. I think if it's automatically given by iRacing, I believe if you speed in pit lane, you have got to come down and serve that penalty under green flag.
Down the inside, Christopher on his return to the Lionheart Retro Series is now up to 3rd position, getting past Matt Taylor.
Yeah, good move there down to the inside, and there also looks like there's some movement coming in behind as Craig Forsyth's going to send a move down to the inside of Fowler. That number 53 looking pretty strong.
Interesting to note, Christopher, someone that's had plenty of success in the Lionheart Open Wheel Series, been in his 26 previous starts in the Retro Series. No previous wins, has only been in the top 5 on 4 previous occasions, and so it's been a long time for Christopher. Last time he was active in this car was back in Season 2. I'm sure plenty has changed since then.
Yeah, it certainly has. Not only have there been the big visual updates that went through about a year and a half ago on this Lotus 79, but the handling has been improved. Indeed, if you try to boot up one of the setups from about 3 years ago, it's not going to work on this car, as there we see Forsyth working his way down into the inside of Stouffer. So credit here to Cresta jumping back into this car. It's probably like learning an all-new, different medium.
Back and forth, they're still going now in their attempt to try and close. Forsyth and Stouffer on Kraus and Zegers, who have now built that buffer up to 1.5 seconds. And I don't remember seeing the tandem being this effective with these Lotus 79s in recent memory.
No, it normally isn't that effective, but we'll have to see if they decide to make it work here. This is one of the circuits when you can get it to play, so let's see if this is it. But right now, it doesn't look like it's doing a lot of work here, as the gap has expanded up to 1.7 seconds.
It's a season opener that has never seen a repeat winner in a championship that only Ryan Otis has conquered on multiple occasions. The Lionheart Retro Series has returned for 2023, and we've still got the run to the checkered flag coming up next. Don't go anywhere on RaceSpotTV. We'll be right back with our run to the checkered in the HyperX Miami 200. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and coverage of the first round of the Lionheart Retro Series. We've made the jaunt once again over to the Sunshine State to land up at Homestead, Miami for the HyperX Miami 200. It's Arjuna Kankipati alongside with DJ Clark for another season of what's going to be exciting side-by-side Lotus 79 racing. And don't forget, you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing. It's the team talent teammates at the front that are starting to break away, but DJ, the reality is at the end of the day that this is a race that potentially could still see another caution. Dan Zegers and Phil Kraus are doing everything in their might to hope that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, they do not want to see that caution flag come out here at this point with a 2.3 second gap up the front of the field. They are just trying to pull away as much as possible. And Forsyth and Stouffer here playing a little bit of leapfrog to see if that's going to be able to close in the gap. But unfortunately, that's not working for them. And it looks like there that David Sirwas kind of getting in the way of it as a lapped car.
He's one lap down, I guess. It might be frustrating, but I guess he's within his right to try and fight to get back onto the leading lap, especially given that he's probably got slightly fresher tires relative to some of those that he's around, given his timing of the pit stop. It's all just shaking up back and forth, though, at this point in time. I have no doubt that with about 23 minutes left, if we go green from here, drivers will continue to just get pushed that little bit harder. It was a frenetic end to the race last year as well, DJ. I mean, you were the beneficiary of the carnage in 2021, but I mean, in that last 3-4 laps last year, one lap after another, it was contender after contender that just dropped and dropped.
Yeah, it really and truly was, and that's what can happen here at these super speedway style races. You never know what can happen, and you've constantly got to be on your toes. You cannot let a single incident pass you by. They're absolutely trying to be able to push their way around here. As we take a look up at the front of the field, that's the 4 and the 88 of Kraus and Zegers. They're playing nice, and they're making this work a treat.
Yeah, this is what they want to see right now as well, is how they're fighting behind. Just frenetic tooth and nail, not giving each other a quarter really. It's Stouffer, Forsyth, and Fontaine in the mix. Sam Fontaine one to watch because he's in a team where he's going to have plenty of experience to back him up in the likes of Chris Stouffer and, of course, the rest of the 40 Sim Race Club. And so I think we're going to be in for an exciting run, not just in the Drivers' Championship, where we're expecting Phil Kraus and Sean Campbell to be major players, but, of course, Michael O'Brien, Chris Fowler, and even the defending champion. Let's not discount Mike Rasmussen at this stage. We've got the Rookie Championship, which we think might be down to just Kraus and Campbell if they're able to stay out of trouble. Team Championship, the one where we could see plenty of tumbling around.
Yeah, we certainly could, and I think the driver and the team championship here are going to be the two big ones to keep an eye out for, as now it does look like Stouffer and Forsyth have been able to clear themselves around Sirois here at this point, and they're going to be trying to use that leapfrog a little bit better here as they go, but that gap is still expanding. It is now up to almost 3 seconds between Forsyth and Kraus. I really think at this point, Arjuna, that these guys need a yellow flag to come out to catch them back up to the field. Oh,
absolutely. The gap is 3 full seconds. That's basically gone at this point. And I wonder at what point Phil Kraus and Dan Zegels will stop playing nice with each other as teammates and say, you know what? I want to win in my very first race.
I think that will... I'm gonna call the Penske rule here. Say 10 laps to go, that's when the gloves come off and it becomes an absolute street fight. That's Roger Penske's rule.
Is it?
Up until the last 10 laps, you play as a team player. After that, all gloves are off.
I like last 10 laps. I think that's fair. Because it gives everyone enough time to settle into a rhythm as well. And final 10 laps at most tracks, you still have the opportunity to go out and have a good race.
Yeah, exactly, and especially if you're a driver that, well, Penske would love, that is one of those drivers that really thinks about the car and the setup and how it goes over time and tries to tweak and tune the car over the course of the race. You're going to be running your best race car at the end of the race, and that's what all these drivers are going to be hoping, that they're going to have the best feeling of the car at the end of the race. Obviously, we talked about no adjustments that you can make, but that feeling is going to be very, very crucial for them.
It's also important that they figure out who gets the better runs out of what corners and how best to set up the charge in those final couple of laps. I always call it downloading the data. Machine learning and AI is now very popular. Consider these laps, you know, the data that everyone's thinking about when they go into those final couple of corners, positioning the car, how they want to try and pinch the others. And maybe somewhat more importantly in online racing, how close you can really get to the others before things spiral out of control.
Yeah, exactly. And figuring out the limits of the other drivers, how they're going to handle everything, how they're going to respond when you try to send a move, especially if you're not a teammate with somebody. You're starting to figure out at this point who you're racing for the end of this race. As we look back on the battle for P3 with Stouffer, Forsyth, Hill, Fontaine, and Reagan, there's plenty of 4D sim racing drivers there, but there are plenty that aren't a member of that team. They're not going to be in communication with each other, and they're having to figure out, okay, this is where Craig likes to run a little bit more. I need to keep that in mind as I go around here.
Like the shot through the trees, as that's going to be a switchback for Forsyth to try and get past Stouffer. Coming into the final 40 laps, fuel window is now open. And we expect to see drivers in maybe 10 laps or so. It's going to be interesting how that plays out. for Team Talent, we talk about Team Championship. Last year it was Graphics LC that were 1, 2, and 3. Well, Team Talent have lost one in the form of Andrew Wood, but 1 and 2 is still pretty good.
Yeah, it certainly is. They're not going to be shaking a fist at that, I'll tell you that for sure. As we dive down through the corner here, coming on to the century mark for this race. The time is absolutely flying by, and crucially here, we are on lap 35 of our fuel window, as there is, I believe, that is Luke Daniels coming in and out of pit lane. Remember, he was the one that was off sequence earlier in the race.
And so he will go a lap down as a result of this, but the one thing is, we now have one car that is guaranteed to be good on fuel to the end.
Yeah, and that will be Daniels, and we'll have to see how everything shakes out for him. If there's a yellow flag, no, he'll be a lap down. He'll have to get his lap back. That's not going to be a good running there for him.
Well, he would get the wave around is the thing, but yeah, he wouldn't benefit is the thing.
No, what he really needs to have happen is trap everybody else, come back around. He should end up in about, I would say, 8th or 9th position, which is where he was running earlier. And if he's able to be in that position, that's a great run for Daniels. He started well down in the field, and if he's able to make this strategy work, more power to him.
So already 3.5 seconds now between the top two and those behind trying to chase them down. As Connor Harrington puts it in our YouTube chat on RaceSpotTV, these kids are getting taken to Gapplebee's. I'm going to steal that one.
Yeah, I quite like that. Connor, thank you for that. That's a really good line.
No royalties, Connor. You've given that to us free of charge by participating in the YouTube chat.
Yep, exactly. That is, we can use that now.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. All the great lines someone else said. Virtual standard time. Pixel perfect.
Those were both stolen.
All of Murrayisms, all of them, yes, no, everything is stolen at the end of the day.
Yep.
Joey Tebbin tries to be punny, but all he does is drive his fellow commentators crazy, so.
He'll get a good one every once in a while that'll make me chuckle.
Yeah, okay, so what's his success rate?
I mean, he's probably batting about 150, I would say.
Yeah, I would say lower, but hey, end of the day, we're starting to see the fastest laps dropping in again. Light cars onto lap 40 of the run. Kite Bombers back down to pit lane. The most recent time of asking. Starting to get a bit jittery now, DJ. Don't know about you.
Yeah, this is going to be the danger zone, not only for drivers having to come down into pit lane, but with those cars being looser, being lighter, being twitchier, there is more unpredictability in these Lotus 79s here at this point, and you are going to have to be very careful, as that's the 31 of Christopher Hill almost chopping off Chris Reagan.
We're going to jump around through a couple of the cars in the field and just see how it's all shaking up, because it's too wide basically through this peloton, third on back. Chris Fowler takes it almost 3 abreast for a moment, and it's good. All check up now, and that's when things do start to get a bit dangerous, when the concertina plays its way on through. Chris Fowler almost runs himself up into the wall, but the temper's definitely starting to rise. I said it in my intro, it's a race that frays the nerves, given how treacherous it can be. As a couple of puffs of smoke, definitely think some cars graze the wall.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a graze of the wall. They'll have to be a little bit careful about that. These cars are very, very sensitive on the under trays. If you make even the slightest bit of a hit to that outside wall, it can mess up the under tray. So that's a couple of cars being very aggressive.
That was Matt Taylor with a big old wiggle, I tell you. But they all get it sorted out in time. Remember, the gold machine, well, white, black, and gold machine, that's David Sirah, who is still a lap down, but he's going to be involved in 3 wide as Matt Taylor almost ran into Sam Fontaine there. We all survive for the moment.
For the moment being the operative phrase here, as this is getting very, very hairy from second on back, and they try to control everything. Sirah just a sitting duck. We've got drivers down in the pit lane, though. That's Matt Wagner.
So I think now a couple of drivers saying, you know what, let me get out of this. Let me have no part of any potential trouble. Into turn 3 they'll go. Another car peels off and in. Is that David Sirah that got out of Dodge? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Craig Forsyth was definitely one of them. Not sure who else.
Yeah, Not sure who else either here at this point. Look at the gap up at the front of the field here, Arjuna. I just looked at it. It's up to 5 seconds with all of this battling in the second
I'm trying not
pack.
to, because this might just be the Phil Kraus season again. And I've seen it last year. I thought we were done with it. Here comes Christopher into the lane, this time by less than 30 to go, and one by one they're trickling on in.
Yellow!
Oh!
We've got a yellow! That's Chris Fowler into the wall!
And this changes everything. Hopefully Christopher will be able to bail. I don't think he got into pit lane, and that's Michael O'Brien up and over. The Kiwi,
Oh.
2 of the Graphics LC Nozumi Madworks Motorsports cars in trouble with less than 30 to go.
Oh my goodness gracious. Less than 30 to go. We had some drivers that were able to make it down into pit lane, and they're going to be in the catbird seat here.
And immediately Phil Kraus will lead a handful on in. My days, how quickly the game will change. We'll see how it cycles out at the end. Remember, most of those that have come on in were technically 1 lap down. Rodriguez, Stouffer, and Cohn, I think, will have been dinged for entering a closed pit lane as well, unfortunately. Heartbreaking stuff through the field, but as they come down to pit lane for the final time today, the replay machine gets a workout to try and figure out what went on here.
I think there may have actually been 2 separate incidents. We'll need to take another look at that.
I think there may be several separate incidents there.
Yeah, there very well may be. Let's take a look here.
So Chris Fowler behind is on the outside, and he gets right into by his teammate, Michael O'Brien. And then in front, you've got all of this conundrum that's going on. Valiokus goes up and over. David Rodriguez involved with that. I think Craig Forsyth potentially came down to pit lane and got dinged.
I think he may have as well. We'll have to see. Yeah, these were at least 2 separate incidents here. We're going to watch on board with Fowler's teammate, as you said. A little bit of teammate-on-teammate violence here as they come into the corner. Oh, that was a checkup from in front. The car got up into the wall, and that's what slowed down Fowler.
Oh, and then Rodriguez tried to slow down. O'Brien got a subsequent tap because there was another machine that got mixed up, and whoever got launched into pit lane was because of the white and purple pink machine. I mean, my days. My days.
Absolute insanity there. Arjuna, we said we were having a little bit of a pedestrian race here with Kraus and Zegers running away at it, and these drivers just proved us wrong.
We'll try and get word who that car on pit lane was, but I'm a little bit lost for words right now. I don't know how you're feeling, DJ.
I'm utterly startled here at this point as this race is completely changed the makeup of what I thought it was going to be. I thought we were in for a run to the line here, and now everything has changed.
Okay,
What?
well, I just figured out what happened here. Let's immediately go take a look. It was Christopher who was trying to come down to pit lane.
Oh.
And so that's why he's slow. It was Mark Cohn, the other car that was involved. And so as Stouffer came down to the lane, let's check on board with the Pink Panther.
Yeah, you see the incident up there. The second incident, Cohn tries to woe himself down, just nowhere to go. Catches a little bit of it, goes down to the inside track to try to avoid everything. Contact there. I think actually Cohn may have been thinking dive down into pit lane if at all possible.
I don't think he had control of the car because he was as right hand down as we've seen anyone be today, and it still was just going left. My goodness. Take a breath. And now breathe, because Phil Kraus and Dan Zegers are no longer breaking away, and we'll have a restart with likely less than 24 laps to go.
All right, it's all going to come down to it here at this point. Here they go, as we're going to be bringing our way around here, and they're going to be getting ready to go back to green. As you said, only about 24 laps to go.
One more chance to try and change your prediction.
I'm still going with Campbell.
Still going with Campbell. He's back in 7th.
I think he's got a chance. We'll see.
I think the wise money is likely on Team Talon at the front. I think they've just figured out the swap drafting in a way that I don't know if anyone was expecting.
I think you're a little bit right about that, but with everything being back equal here at this point in the race, we're going to have to see how it plays.
So everyone now good to the end, except for Jim Herrick and David Sirwa, who are on the lead lap, but basically instantly are going to be coming down pit lane, so they'll go a lap down again. Kraus, Zegers, Reagan, Hill, and Graf, the top 5. Kraus and Zegers were almost 5 full seconds clear at the time of the caution. How will it play out now with 24 laps left to go? Hopefully green to the end in this HyperX Miami 200. Team Talon drivers at the front bring us back to green, and while they did stack up a little bit further back, it's safely through. Across the line we go. Tyler Graf up the inside of Christopher Hill for 4th position, but no changes in the top 3.
No changes here in the top 3 as it looks like Kraus and Zegers are already starting to pull a little bit of a gap, 0.3 of a second, and they're going right back to what we saw earlier doing that swap draft.
It's almost like they planned this one out, and you said 10 laps to go, so that means 14 laps of swapping, and then maybe 10 laps of fighting. Chris Reagan's not going to let them get away so easily, though, in that Elite West Racing number 19 machine. Chris Hill now trying to defend from Matt Taylor, as Sean Campbell, Drew White, Sam Fontaine, and then Mike Razmas, the defending champion, round out the end of the top 10.
All right, continued swapping here. Reagan trying to put some pressure onto the back of him to see what he is going to be able to do. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough here to be able to let them try to slip away, but you are not seeing a lot of battling here out of these other drivers.
They're battling a little bit more frenetically behind, as I think that was Craig Forsyth in the 53 that was trying to get himself off of the wall. David Sirwa does have to come down to pit lane, and so that's him dropping down a lap. Kraus and Zegers still controlling the point, but now Tyler Graf shapes up high, with Chris Reagan still committed to the white line to follow the Team Talent teammates. Can there be some momentum build up on the outer groove?
Let's see if they're going to be able to carry that line a little bit more, trying to see what they're able to do. 22 to go as they fly down into 1.
On board with Matt Taylor as he tucks in behind that inside line. He doesn't look very willing to try and dive his way on high just for the time being. How aggressive do you get the further back you are here, DJ? When does the switch click, and do you get those elbows out?
I think now, if you're a little bit farther back, you have got to start making moves up towards the front of the field ASAP.
So no breakaway this time for the Team Talent teammates, and now 20 to go at the line. Still Kraus and Zegers, though, and crucially, they're not swapping back and forth anymore. They know that they can't really afford to open the doors to anyone behind. Still no one making the outer line work. It did take 15 laps or so, DJ, for the side-by-side to build up in that first run that we had.
Yeah, it certainly did. I wonder if it's going to take a little bit of time here for it to go. Looking to see a little bit of a move there from Zegers as everybody files their way in behind, and they stay relatively single file, but here comes a move from, who else? Sean Campbell.
He's made the outside line work, and now, is there enough grip for him to continue to make it work? Taylor's trying to run him up a little bit high, I believe, and the WMP racing car still has to try and find a way on through. You can see behind the likes of Hardin, Guyon, and Gabe Wood trying to latch on to the back of them. And in terms of movers and shakers, we always talk about attrition in the Lionheart Retro Series. Chris Reagan's plus 34, Fontaine, Razmas, Hardin, Wood, Munoz, plenty of drivers plus double digits. Ultimately, this is what I was mentioning earlier about being able to fight through the difficult situations, because this series is going to put you down in the weeds more than once over the course of the year.
Yeah, it certainly is. You have got to take every advantage that you can every single time it comes your way. You need to absolutely take full moment here as we ride on board. You see just searching for that grip, trying to find it here a little bit, trying to find where the quickest way by is going to be.
Sun continues to set, but we're racing not into the sunset here, but with still plenty of sunshine baking the track. There is a bit of cloud cover, but it's not that noticeable. And these drivers now have got the optimal racing conditions to continue to battle. The outside line continues to find its footing, though, and now Sean Campbell on the outside of Chris Reagan cracks the podium spots.
Yes, he does. He's starting to make that move work here at this point. He's really driving the car up high, trying to pinch a little bit, and look at all that momentum.
Gotta wonder what it's doing to the tires, though, and he's gonna chop the nose of Christopher Hills, number 31, to hold on to 4th position, and now once again try and set up a bit of an arc through the corner. Just run a little bit of a different line and gain a little bit more speed. 15 to go. Campbell's looking the most feisty. Kraus is still dominating at the front.
Yeah, it certainly is, as they continue to go, continue to try to be able to get their way around right now. Trying to see what they're able to do. Campbell really putting up a good fight here. I like this. That's the line I ran 2 years ago to get myself onto the podium.
Look at those team affiliations as well. Team Talent 1 and 2, Elite West Racing 3, Unacceptable Racing, and WMP fighting for 4th and 5th. You've got a 40 sim racing car, but then 4 graphics LC machines all scattered amongst the various teams. And then Alex Guyon just outside of the top 10. Teammate affiliations are important because you know you may have a friend at least until those final couple of laps.
Indeed, as they work their way around here at this point. Coming to the line, 13 to go.
Still time to change your prediction if you want.
I like what Campbell's doing. I like the lines here. I like how he's running.
And to the points that I was making earlier, Campbell's having to endure.
Yellow.
Oh! And now who is this for? Craig Forsyth. Another damage. Low to 79. Dustin Wardlow mixed up with Luis Gonzalez Nunez as well, and so there are a couple of cars that slow us down and now set us up for what might be just a 10-lap shootout.
Yeah, it could set us up for that here at this point. Let's take a look back at exactly what happened. That's Forsyth trying to run it wide on the high side. Looks like he got a little bit turned around and then caught Wardlow, and it hit.
And there was one, I think, of the Backfire Motorsports cars that did a half-decent job of slowing down enough to not get tagged up completely. I mean, 3 wide, they ping-pong off of each other, Forsyth pitches around, and then another hellacious incident.
Yeah, a very, very heavy hit there from all drivers. That was absolutely ridiculous there to see them all get hit.
Well, slow it down. Sean Campbell now up to 4th position. And Phil Kraus has a chance to once again lead us back to a green flag start. We're getting closer and closer, though, to that point of no return where a caution would end the race for the 2nd time in 7 years of Lionheart Retro Series competition.
Yes, indeed it would, and I think here Kraus is going to be hoping that that doesn't happen, but I guarantee you the rest of the field, or Kraus is going to be hoping that that does happen. The rest of the field here are going to be praying they're going to be able to have some way to be able to get their way on by Kraus.
9 to go we will restart, or 10 to go? I'm still not sure, because lights are still on the pace car, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, lights look like they're still on here at this point, so I think it's going to be 9 to go.
All right. So that's what we're in store for. 133-lap race. It's whittled down to just now effectively a 9-lap shootout. 40 cars took to the grid. If you're wondering how many are still running, 24 of them. These are races where attrition plays its part. It's the nature of the car that we're racing. It's very loose, it's very raw, and it's very physical. And they're all fighting a fixed setup at the end of the day that's not designed to their whims and needs. How are the tires probably feeling at this point now, DJ, in terms of going through a couple of cycles? A handful of drivers may have taken 2 or 4 tires midway through the race, but outside of that, bias ply tires, still plenty of load being shed through them. DJ Clark has just lost power, so we'll go solo in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth for the next couple of moments. Live broadcasting. Things like this happen. If you're watching on RaceSpotTV, on Arena TV, let us know who you're cheering for, who you think will come out on top, and what's going to be a pretty exciting showdown to the end of this one. Got some contenders looking to stake their claim for a championship, and then you've got some drivers that are just looking to continue winning. I mean, Sean Campbell, he may challenge Sage Karam's records at the end of the day. All things considered. He's already got the most consecutive wins. Long Beach, Motegi Road, Motegi, and Montreal. That was back in Season 6. 4 consecutive wins. So lights are still on the iRacing sedan. Still have an additional lap before we get back underway. For those watching on, yes, it is Richie Hearn, the former IndyCar driver who was in the field, unfortunately was our first retiree. But he's cheering on his Elite West Racing teammate, Chris Reagan, up in 3rd position. DJ Clark apparently has his entire street that has lost power. This is the danger sometimes of racing. Apparently I'm going to be allowed to disturb Sean Campbell, so let's very quickly see if we can do that. Sean, do we have a copy with you?
We do.
How are you feeling right now with an 8-lap shootout? Put it on pole. How's it going?
It's going good. I don't know how I'm going to get past Phil and Daniel. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to get past Phil and Daniel. I think they've been doing a good job running up front the whole time. Just like passively defending, I guess, being in place.
You did take the time to text and drive, by the way, so we've got to admonish you for that, but apparently cautions aren't very stressful behind the wheel.
No, it's just plotting. It's more just thinking about what you're going to do once it goes green, you know?
Well, you've had plenty of time to think. We'll let you go off and race. Best of luck for the showdown at the end.
All right, thanks.
Sean Campbell. Ah, what a character. What a lovely gentleman as well, allowing us to come and disturb him. Marius Valiokis also allowed potentially me to disturb him, but I decided that we'd stick with Sean Campbell. So an 8-lap shootout to decide the HyperX Miami 200. It's Phil Kraus and Dan Zegers that have controlled the tempo for the back half of this race. What can the rest of the field do now in these final laps? Sean Campbell with a monster of a jump, trying to get to the inside of Chris Reagan, but the Elite West Racing number 19 is having absolutely none of it. We may see the yellow back out immediately, though. Sam Fontaine spins on the exit of turns 1 and 2. Jeff Hysong gets mixed up once again. We add a couple more to our flip counter. And now, plodding around once again will be for a next couple of laps. Let's go ahead and dial up the replay, as I heard an engine go boom as well. On the initial restart, you could just see them all unsure where to go. And so then as we look forward to Fontaine's number 22, contact there with Taylor, and it sets off the chain reaction because cars scampering once again. That is an impressive jump, all things considered. I would like some hops like that. It was not meant to be. One more look at Fontaine. Just Taylor getting a better run, and then the loose car of Fontaine not being the best thing as well. But plenty of drama to deal with as more contenders getting taken out. So I'm sure at this point drivers trying to burn off some fuel. Get as light a car as possible, given that we've had what I believe now is a tied record, 6 cautions here at Homestead Miami. One more would not only probably end the race, but would set new records as well. It is one of the biggest fields that we've had, though. First time since back in Season 1 that we've actually had 40 cars in the field. Last year we started off with 38. So the 2 years that we had 4 cautions were also the 2 years where we had the smallest car counts. Seems a little bit logical, I guess. As it stands, though, the streak will go on of, in 7 different years, 7 different winners reigning supreme. Let's hope it's not a second year that we finish this race under caution, because historically it's been known for a close finish. Homestead Miami home to the 10th, the 11th, the 14th, and the 16th technically, because Pocono and Homestead are tied for 14th. Closest finishes in series history. So Homestead always does know how to put on a show. Dan Zegers and Phil Kraus, though, are hoping that is the team talent show, and that is it. They don't want anyone else to enter the equation. It's a busy weekend on RaceSpotTV as well, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well to get notified. We'll have some ESL R1 action tomorrow with some quarterfinals. Our team over in Denmark as well, helping to produce the world feed for that. Saturday we have the iRacing Road America 500. A fantastic event. And then on Sunday, a slew of entertainment, but most notably the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain, where Sebastian Job looks set to potentially wrap up the championship heading into the closing stages. Lionheart Sports Car Series unfortunately is off until the start of May, and we don't go racing again in these Lotus 79s until 2 weeks from today. But that's over at Watkins Glen, and it's going to showcase the diversity of talent and skills that you require in this Lionheart Retro Series. It's a car that was designed to go racing at Grand Prix tracks, yes. It does not mean that it's not pretty fun around these ovals as well. We see the drivers really having to wheel it a lot of the time. Right, lights are off. We'll restart with 3 to go, and it is guaranteed that a caution will end the race. We saw how feisty Sean Campbell was on that initial jump last time. Curious how he's going to play it this time by. You might also have some damage on the front of Matt Taylor's machine after Sam Fontaine spun in front of him, but the racing gods have smiled on the Graphics LC Nozumi Madworks car. I'm going to make sure I repeat that full team name as much as possible just so everyone agrees with me how difficult a name it is to say, but it is not the most difficult. I'll get back. I'll finally say the story that I was trying to say earlier. The most difficult team name of all is the BMW M Team BS Plus competition. It's up there with the Mercedes AMG Petronas esports team. As well, you've got the Mercedes AMG Williams esports team. There are some very complicated names in the world of sim racing. Phil Kraus, Dan Zegers, Chris Reagan, though. It's uncomplicated at the front. It's 3 laps to decide it in the Sunshine State. We're rolling once again for the HyperX Miami 200. A good jump from the teammates, but are all bets off at this point? Will Zegers start to force the issue with Phil Kraus? A bit of separation to 4th on back. Zegers pops himself up high for a moment, but tucks back into line, sets himself up. With 2 laps still left to go, Matt Taylor, Chris Hill, they fight for 5th and 6th positions. But it is side by side, 2 rows deep almost, at the very front of the field. Sean Campbell powers around the outside of Chris Reagan. He's running out of time, but not out of confidence to try and make these moves stick. Now Zegers has nowhere to go. He's got to stay down low. Kraus enters about half a lane high. Runs a little bit more speed through the corner. And Barney the flagman waits with the white flag in hand. It's a showdown here to start the season off. And Campbell has got past Dan Zegers for 2nd now as well. 2 corners and half a straight still left to go, and look at how Campbell builds his momentum around the outside. It's going to be a drag race to the line to kick off what may be the closest championship fight we've had in a championship that's finished tied on points before. But Phil Kraus will come out on top in the HyperX Miami 200 to set the intention for the start of the season. What a race! The margin at the line, 14 thousandths of a second. But Phil Kraus is undeniable, one of Lionheart's best. "14 thousandths of a second means it's the 8th closest finish in series history. Phil Kraus, Sean Campbell, and Dan Zegers, 3 rookies, will make up the podium positions. Take notes for the rest of the season. 21 races still left on the agenda. Phil Kraus burns it down in HyperX Victory Lane. What a way to kick things off, and let's go ahead and take a look at our arena race results, because a 3-lap showdown saw Phil Kraus be just enough to hold off the charge of Sean Campbell. 7 different races, 7 different winners here at Homestead to start off Retro Series competition. And Sean Campbell continues the streak as well of pole position, not being able to crack HyperX victory lane. It's Dan Zegers that makes it Team Talent 1 and 3, a great way for them to start off the season in the HyperX Team Championship, while Chris Reagan for the Elite West Racing number 19 machine. Your biggest mover on the day, 33 positions gained in the course of 133 laps. Matt Taylor finishes 5th in the Nezumi Graphics LC Madworks car, while Tyler Groff and Mike Razmas, the defending series champion, across the line in 6th and 7th as teammates. It's then Alex Guyon and Ricky Harding with Gabe Wood completing out the top 10, with 5 of those drivers double-digit gains, most of them 25 plus. Down in 11th spot, Rodrigo Munoz for Backfire Motorsports comes across the line, with Luke Daniels slightly gambling on the fuel strategy early, still across the line in 12th position. That's a driver that we know is going to find his feet over the course of 2023. Matt Wagner, Hugo Gallus, Sam Ryman, Kite Bombers back, George Anzaldo, Christopher Hill, David Sirai, and then Jeff Hysong through the rest of your top 20. While behind them, Sam Fontaine, Drew White, Cristobal Valenzuela, Bruno Miranda in the Juncos Hollinger Esports car. These are all the cars that encountered plenty of struggles, because my word, did we have a few monumental shunts. Craig Forsyth, Chris Lanini, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Dustin Wardlow, Jim Herrick, and David Rodriguez. That is your top 30, with Fowler, Cohn, Valiokis, O'Brien, Stouffer, Johnson, Wood, Hassert, Rigney, and Hearn. The rest of the top 40. 40 cars took to the grid, but only 18 ended up scored on the lead lap. It is the devastation that sometimes can occur in races as tight and as physical as this one. With that said, though, let's head straight into what is going to be a pretty interesting Next Level Racing post-race show, because we'll head straight down to HyperX Victory Lane, where Phil Kraus is standing by. Phil, you've won so many times before in the Lionheart Open Wheel Series. How did it feel to be on the oval here with this Lotus 79 and coming out on top?
Yeah, Arjun, it's definitely a different experience to the car I'm used to driving on the ovals. It's a bit more packy. It's a bit more like the DW12 that they used in Speedway last season. But yeah, it was fun to work with Dan that entire race, and it was a bit closer than I thought it'd be at the end, because like in my experience, the top really struggled to build a run, but Sean was flying, to put it lightly. But yeah, it was fun.
He was wheeling, that's for sure. I did want to ask about the swapping back and forth. How effective was it? Because it was effective in that one run, and we were kind of curious if it would be effective at the end when we had those shorter runs potentially, but you didn't seem able to break away the second and third time of asking.
It all depended on how good of a restart Dan and I got compared to the car in third. On that penultimate restart, Chris was able to hold it like 3/10 behind Dan, and I think we needed about half a second to be able to swap and start pulling away from him, because I kind of noticed it in the first run when I was latched onto Luke Daniels, I think, and that pulled me away from everybody else. That if you were like 0.5, 0.6 back, you started kind of weeble-wobbling with the draft, but we got lucky on that one restart that we were able to pull away from. I forget who was in third at the time, but I think they might have missed a shift or something that allowed us to pull away. But the last 2 restarts we weren't able to do it, so just went to painting the white line in pink.
Let's talk about the teammates as well, because you have 3 of them. Andrew Wood not coming out with the result that maybe he would have wanted, but 2 of the cars inside of the top 3. Things looking good in the HyperX Team Championship as well.
Oh yeah, things are looking great in the Teams Championship. It's unfortunate what happened to Woody. I think he had a hardware issue. He wasn't able to get a shift. I think something messed up on his shifter paddle, and that put him out of the race. But I know he's looking forward to driving this car a lot as well. Dan's really looking forward to running the road stuff with me, and I'm really looking forward to the road stuff. The ovals, not as much, but it was fun today for sure. But I'm really looking forward to the road, to be honest. It'll be a fun battle with Sean on those for sure.
I hate to disappoint you. This is a series that's majority oval, so
hey, now it's only a 12-10 split. It's close.
It's only 12 to... Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well. So, Phil Kraus gets plenty of road courses, and that will be up next at Watkins Glen. We'll see you in 2 weeks, Phil. Congratulations on the debut victory.
Cheers, Arjuna.
Always great to talk with Phil Kraus. Let's head on over to Sean Campbell once again, who was kind enough to disturb himself by joining us in the broadcast booth in the caution. Sean, you tried, and that was the 8th closest finish in series history. What more did you need to get the job done?
I got spooked going into turn 3. I turned in too early. Had I not done that, I think it would have been closer. I think he still might have got it, though. He was driving smooth the whole time. But that's why you saw me weaving and whatnot and going crazy on the pace laps, because I was trying to burn the right rear way so I could get more rotation in it. And it worked. It worked. But just barely not enough, I guess.
Interesting. Well, Phil has just said that he's really looking forward to the road courses, and we got Watkins Glen coming up. I'm curious what you're thinking about that race, especially given that I know you missed that race last year, and we had some cautions on lap number 1.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
No, I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm guessing it was through the S's, probably.
Yes, probably.
Potential netcode issues. Not issues, just like it's bound to happen through there because the fast like flicking that you go through there. But it'll be good. I think, especially if it's without the bus stop, and I think it's without the bus stop, you probably might see 3 wides into like the long right-hander. That'll be very fun.
Sean, congratulations on a great run up around that outside line. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time to see if you and Phil's going to be the fight that we're all hoping it is.
All right, hopefully.
Sean Cabell joining us in the broadcast booth for the 2nd time today, and we'll go to the final step of the podium where Dan Zagers joins us. So Dan, I first got to apologize. We butchered your name for the entirety of the last 2 or so hours, but all things considered, a 3rd on debut. You must be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, dude, really pumped. First excited to be a part of this Lionheart Racing Series. Yeah, heard a lot of good things, and lucky to get the name drawn to be a part of it. But yeah, for debut, it was good. You know, with Phil leading the way, I think we were able to get a good start there, and was able to swap quite a ways, and then had that yellow that came out that kind of shut down that strategy. But dude, really happy to come home on the podium. Sean had one heck of a run there on the outside. So I was like, well, I wasn't going to go up there and try and then lose out to the inside. So yeah, it was good.
How are you liking the Lotus 79? Because I think it's something that takes some adjusting to for some.
Yeah, I love it. It seems to be a heck of a driver's car. A lot of yaw there in the corners late in the run. I know we were burnt down way on tires, but and you do have a little bit of ability to counter steer and save some of that. So I'm really excited to try it out on the road courses coming up on the calendar. We'll see. See how setups are, see how the car handles over curbs, and yeah, excited. Heck of a car to drive.
Well, you've set the stall out well, and now you get to go to Watkins Glen and see if you can keep it up. Congratulations on 3rd, and we'll see you in 2 weeks to roll it on forward.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for all you guys do. Shout out to Team Talent for really helping me through this. Paints by the Tuna Can, and big shout out to Lean Techniques for throwing their name on the car and trusting in us to bring home some good finishes. So thanks to them.
The first, and I'm sure not the last podium that we'll see for Dan Zagers, and indeed the entirety of Team Talent as well, because what a way to kick off the season for them. As always, thank you to the podium for taking the time to come and chat with us here. Always great to get that level of insight from the drivers, and we did mention it, Phil Krause is apparently looking forward to it. We're going over to Watkins Glen 2 weeks from tonight, April the 27th. It's 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. You can join us for what's going to be a rather interesting one. Fuel strategy is always interesting here as well, because you spend so much of the lap full throttle that you can always play some sort of different games. We know that the final couple of corners can be treacherous as well if you try and go side by side, and then blasting past the bus stop chicane, I think, into the outer loop. It's the boot that then tends to be the most worrisome. Here's a look at the Next Level Racing schedule, because, boy, what a run we're in for. 22 races in this Season 7 of the Lionheart Retro Series, and it's going to see us journey across the world as well. DJ Clark called out the Barber Motorsports Park as being one of the rounds he was most looking forward to. I tend to agree with him. I think that's going to be pretty exciting as well. Nashville was one that I thought last year wouldn't be so fun. It proved to be surprisingly entertaining, so I'm going to keep my expectations tempered, but I'm going to go in with optimism. Also, just look at the start of the season, how much of a mismatch of skills it is. Homestead, Miami, then Watkins Glen, New Hampshire, Pocono, Long Beach. Nothing is alike in there, and so it's always exciting to see how the drivers figure things out on the fly. Before we take the time to say goodbye, we take the time to thank those that make all of this possible, starting with HyperX. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. If you think sim racing is thrilling, try getting behind the wheel of a real race car. The BMW M4 GT4 experience at the BMW Performance Driving School in Thermal, California puts you in the cockpit of one of BMW's fastest cars. Complete with roll cage and racing slicks. You'll get fitted with a racing suit, practice pit stops, and lap their track with pro instructors. Nothing virtual about their thrills. To book your M4 GT4 experience, call or visit the links on screen. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. Visit thebuttkicker.com. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. Arena is an all-new esports streaming experience driven by real-time interactions between gamers and their communities. Arena brings live broadcast fan engagement to the next level. Get involved and make a difference on arena.tv. From simple logos to full branding for your company. Virtual designs to liveries raced by Indy 500 champions. Graphics offers the finest quality with a wide range of design services. Visit graphicsesports.com. And it's not them, but so many more that make this all possible. To learn more about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series, or just to find out more about the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts on, head on over to lionheartracingseries.com. As we mentioned, it's a busy old weekend here on RaceSpotTV, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to hit the notification bell to get notified every single time we go live with some more great sim racing action. 2 weeks from today, we rumble up to upstate New York, but today proved what a tumultuous season we're going to be in for. An attrition rate of more than 50% and a field split with experienced rookies and veterans looking to challenge themselves against said rookies. It's now the Phil Krause and Sean Campbell show, potentially. What a run that we had here in the Sunshine State to open things off. On behalf of the team at RaceSpotTV, thank you so much for joining us for the season opener. For DJ Clark alongside myself, Arjuna Kanki Party, we'll see you 2 weeks from today. It's Phil Krause on top. Is that going to be the story of 2023? You'll have to stick around to find out what a run we had for the HyperX Miami 200.